Yo, what's up? This is Sconebone, and this is VinylView, an interview with my guests and their collection of vinyl. My buddy tonight, Mike Potter, how we doing? He's got his whiskey ready. We're ready to do this. So the interview process tonight, I asked Mike to create me a playlist based off his record collection. So the tracks that he chose only came from records. Now, I'm kind of finagling this a little. The show used to be live on the radio. I would invite my guest on. They would bring their records and we play them on the air. But the station has been closed since March of 2020, so that format will not work. So I finally worked it around in a way that I can use video technology and play the music. Now, we won't actually hear the music in this feed, but if you go to sconebone.com/vinylview, the playlist that Mike chose is already made and created on that website. Now, the reason, obviously, as if you know, Twitch will mute any copyrighted music, so I want to be able to have that separate, and any other format such as YouTube will delete any copyright infringement. So this is my workaround. Go to sconebone.com/vinylview if you're not already there. You're watching the video with me and Mike on Twitch, and below it is the playlist. So if you want to listen while we talk about what he chose, you're free to do that. If you just want to listen to us or just listen to the music, you have your choice. So Mike, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Sorry it took me so long to get the playlist together.
It's not only your fault. I've been dragging my feet too. But we finally pulled it together, and you're going to be my guinea pig, and we're going to see how this works.
Absolutely. I'm here to drink whiskey and be a guinea pig, I guess.
Cheers. So what are you drinking since we're talking about whiskey?
Yeah, I'm drinking some Smooth Ambler right now, and I got a little Belvini Double Wood for after this glass.
Oh, you're gonna mix it up. Nice.
Yeah, it's like why have one whiskey when there's a million out there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of the same with records. When there's a million of them, why listen to just a few or just one style?
Right. So speaking of vinyl, why do you collect vinyl?
I don't know. I guess vinyl's just better. I love music. It's great to listen to, but I feel like listening to records makes the music listening process. You're involved in it when you're listening to vinyl, as opposed to like a CD or an MP3. Like throwing tracks on your phone where you can click a button and it's going to play for 5 days. Typically for an LP, you've got about 20 minutes aside, so you've got to pull out this 12 by 12 record, and their artwork's big and beautiful, and you go over, you set it down, and you put the needle down, and 20 minutes later you've got to get back over there and flip it, put it back down. It makes it more involved, and I think it makes music more valuable. Don't get me wrong, the convenience of MP3s is great and all that, and I've obviously downloaded a bunch of music in my day, but I just prefer records. I think, even if it's some 99-cent record I got out of a dollar bin that's beat up and dusty, whatever, it still has more value to me than anything I download,
Right. There's the experience of listening as opposed to just passively playing something because you can. You have to stay in the room.
Yeah.
And you got to flip the side.
It makes it like a ritual, you're involved in the process instead of just being completely passive.
Right. And, you could drop the needle specifically on one song or another, or you could listen to the entire side, ideally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you really want to punish yourself, get out a bunch of, 7-inch 45s or something, and then you can't go anywhere or do anything else. You got a minute or two aside, and that's it. You just got to sit next to your turntable, which is cool too.
So with your collection, are you more selective and reserved, or are you buying anything that you can find?
I don't know. Like anything you can find makes it just sound like if I see a record, I'm going to take it,
Sure.
No, I'm selective, I guess. I still buy records that I'm not sure what they are, just based on, I don't know, artwork, or maybe I heard a thing. I mean, in general, there's certain situations where I feel like you can judge a book by its cover. Like,
I was just going to ask, is that a thing? Which I agree that sometimes you can.
Sometimes you can. I mean, I feel like there's like a certain area of like reggae records where it's like these hand-drawn kind of cartoony things where you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's gonna fucking rule. Or metal records, there's certain things, like certain eras. Like, I mean, if you see a metal record from like the 80s with like a cobra on the front, just fucking buy it.
Buy it. Totally. Fuck yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's also kind of like educated guesses too, like after years and years and years of buying records, you kind of get a feel for certain things and certain looks, which you're like, okay, if you got this aesthetic, you probably got some other things figured out too,
Right. Yeah, and then once you open it up and you see the label and it's Metal Blade, or if we're speaking about metal, you're like, all right, yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's definitely some record labels that have where it's just you can trust the label, and then there's some record labels where you're like, oh, well, this era of that label, they had it down, and then maybe later or earlier they kind of waffled a little bit or did things that were outside of your tastes. But that's life. Not everything is for everyone, and that's fine.
Sure. Right. All right. So speaking of the records, what was the first track in the list?
Okay, so I started with Einstürzen Neubauten, and
I never knew how to pronounce it. My German is not so good.
Yeah, mine's not so good either. So I very easily could be saying that wrong. Trying to hold this up so it doesn't get a glare.
Yeah, it's all good.
Party Muck, and again, I don't speak German, so I could be pronouncing that wrong.
Party Mook.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's probably it.
So, and your playlist, it's pretty eclectic. We'll get into each track, but you kind of had different little moments. There's some experimental art punk, and you got some noise in there. Then you got some soul in there.
And then I think I brought it back around to some kind of metal, more rockin' things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I do listen to a little bit of everything, as cliched and silly as that is to say. I really do. I have a wide variety of music, and I think any sane or insane person should have a wide variety of music, because there's something for every mood and every thing you're going through or whatever. So yeah, I tried to kind of like fade through different styles, and I tried to play things that would kind of blend together and transition well. Hopefully I pulled that off. Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it did. It definitely did. You definitely have this very, I'm going to get weird right in the beginning kind of vibe going.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of throw people off from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like make people a little uncomfortable and then kind of make it more comfortable,
Yeah.
It seemed to make sense to me to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, look, we're going to get weird and we're going to have fun too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want you to just like, if you start too mellow, I feel like people will not pay attention. So you got to kind of throw things in to keep people guessing and wonder what's going to come next,
Right.
So next thing I did was Coil off Scatology, the Solar Lodge, which is just, I mean, when I first heard it, it just kind of blew my mind, and I hadn't heard anything like it, and I didn't know what to think or anything, but it hooked me,
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good thing to throw in right at the beginning.
So how did you come across it?
So back in like, I'm gonna say late 90s, early 2000s, I was fortunate enough, tail end of high school to get a job working for a mail order place that specialized in black metal, and my employers and my coworkers had been involved in the music scene from noise, experimental, punk rock, like all of that. They'd been in it for a long time. And so when I got this job, it was just a crash course in music. And I feel like I would have eventually ended up knowing about these things, but it just put it in hyperdrive, and I
accelerated it. Yeah.
It was just a crash course, and it was crazy because part of it was every week when I get closer to payday, my boss would come out and be like, "Oh, you like this? Well, you should check out this band because these guys are just trying to sound like this guy." And years later, I realized that he just didn't want to pay me.
Yeah.
It
hey,
was
instead of a paycheck, here's some vinyl, which is awesome. I'd work for vinyl.
It was great because it worked out good for him and it worked out great for me. I just didn't get to eat as much food as I would have liked.
Yeah, right.
But it was great. The guy who ran the place, he used to actually work for Subterranean Records, which I think is a unsung hero of the San Francisco music scene that most people don't even realize was as huge and influential as it was. They brought in so much music. I mean, they put out a ton of stuff, but they were also a distributor. So they did like the Dead Kennedys, Noxy Punks, Fuck Off 7-inch. They put out a ton of like Butthole Surfers. The list is miles long of the things that Tupper put out. And
so it's not just a clever name, Subterranean Underground.
No, it's not just a clever name. It was very much so underground music, and they were one of the earliest people to bring in like Japanese noise. So much crazy stuff that we had access to here in the Bay Area that was being funneled in through Tupper and Subterranean Records. And I don't think they will ever get enough credit for what he did. But yeah.
The unsung heroes.
Exactly. He's this dude who has this warehouse underneath the overpass that, you need a flashlight to dig in there, and it's organized. It's organized by record label and then alphabetical within the record label. So nice. Finding stuff's just impossible. And there's like leaning shelves, and there's like random file cabinets that you open. You're like, oh, this is filled with cassette tapes, and what even is this? Getting to go there a few times was just completely insane and mind blowing, and
awesome.
I feel lucky to get to do that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I found out about noises through those guys.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of rambling, so feel free to cut me
off. No. I'm letting you lead the conversation. I don't have anything to say.
I believe that. And then continue on this like experimental industrial thing after Coil, Psychic TV. I believe I did.
Meanwhile,
yeah, thank you. Meanwhile, this is Psychic TV did a whole series of these live records. I think initially the plan was there was supposed to be like 23 live records, and then with each one you got like a little card and you mailed it in, and then if you collected all 23, then you could get some special limited one. Although I could be wrong, but I don't know that they actually put out all 23. I don't know. I'm a little shaky on that, but Psychic TV is another one of those like pillars of the industrial music. Or experimental music. I think maybe they're credited, them or Monty Kazaza is credited with coming up with the term industrial music. It might have been Monty Kazaza. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were pioneering things.
Now, did you purposely put Coil next to Psychic TV? Because I did research the playlist.
Yeah. No, I put
because Coil is a side project, right? Of Psychic TV.
No, it's not a side project. They were happening at the same time. They were happening at the same time, and there was some crossover of people from the different groups collaborating with the other ones, but
Yeah.
no, they were their own separate
I see.
entity.
Okay.
That, you know, they collaborated and they were happening at the same time, but
Right.
not the same.
Yeah.
It just fit, you know, and it kind of makes sense. A lot of times music
Right.
it happens at the same time and in the same area kind of meshes
It
well
just it's the community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then after Psychic TV, I did a track from the Velvet Underground, which needs no introduction or explanation. But also, Psychic TV was very influenced by the Velvet Underground, and I think when you listen to the tracks back to back, you're like, oh yeah, that's quite clear.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a reference in that track, meanwhile, to Velvet Underground. I can't remember exactly what it was. I was like, oh, he's crafting very well.
100%. 100%. And to bring it back, speaking of Tupper and Subterranean Records, this is a record that I got from there. I mean, that's a bootleg, and I'm not saying that Tupper or Subterranean, whatever, support bootlegs or anything of the sort. But perhaps I may have found a record there that may or may not have been legitimately released. Album.
That happens.
Yeah.
So that was all of the tracks on that album are demos. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is a bootleg. It's mostly off a demo from like '85 or something like that, I want to say. Yeah, it's from a couple different sources. It looks like, oh, sorry, not 85. That's 20 years too late. 65.
65. Yeah.
And then there's some demo from 67, another demo recorded live in 67. It's a great one. And this cover art is actually of the book that is where the Velvet Underground got their name from.
Got it. Okay, cool.
And then I followed it up with a little country, because who doesn't love a little country? Chris Christopherson, Casey's Last Stand. So I kind of, growing up, my parents weren't so much into music. I mean, they had a turntable, and my dad had some records, but music was never super huge to them. But he was always, my dad was always a Chris Christopherson fan, and like Willie Nelson. You know, he listened to a lot of like the country standards, and so this was kind of one of those things that I kind of grew up listening to, and then years later, kind of revisited and was like, oh yeah, that's why he listened to that.
Yeah. Now, is that? I was thinking it was a different album. I thought it was his second, the Silver Tongue Devil or whatever. But is this?
No, it's that track. Maybe it's on there too. I don't think that track is actually on the Silver Tongue Devil.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a different one. It's a little dark in here. I think it's just called Christopherson is what this album's called.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, Silver Tongue Devil. That's also that's a dollar bin hammer right there. Like,
yeah. Right.
It's you can't go wrong with that album, and you can regularly
got
the in dollar bins.
The Taxi Driver reference.
Yeah. Chris Christopherson's music got used in a lot of things, and he later became an actor in such notable films as Blade.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, who can go wrong with Blade? I mean, I guess you can if you watch it was like the third one or something where they're all wearing like giant jeans. And
I think I just saw the first.
I think Jack Black is in that one too. It's a rough ride.
Yeah, that's like Batman 3, right? It's like, all right, you're going too far.
I mean, during the pandemic, we all watched things we weren't proud of. But
oh yeah. Well, I'm getting low on whiskey. My production assistant is usually pretty nearby.
Yeah, you should definitely cut her pay for sure.
Yeah, well, she's volunteering, so I can't really complain too much.
And then, so after that, we got Officer, which Officer is a band I actually really don't know much about. One of my good friends gave this to me one year. I don't know. It must have been my birthday or something like that. I don't know. But you know, like when you're obsessed with records, you end up with friends who are also obsessed with records, and everyone finds these weird angles and weird niches that you didn't know about, and then it's kind of a fun game to drop things on your friends and be like, oh, you didn't know about that? That's crazy. I've been listening to this for years, you know, like
Yeah.
that fun asshole game. But
Well, and that's how we learn new music, is through the human interaction, right? I mean, that's the thing, you know, where I'm trying to be as a radio DJ, that humanness, right? Because otherwise, an algorithm's gonna show you new music. It can, but there's something kind of missing from the
bullshit. And it's like, you know, that I feel like that's so insincere, and it's like driven monetarily, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I do think that's also like one of those things about record culture is there's definitely that elitist vibe to it, which is lame.
Fucking annoying.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a fun feeling when you're talking to another music nerd and you can drop something on them that they didn't know about. But it's also like, don't save that. Like, do that. Like, if you find a record that's great, you should share it with everyone, you know? Like, records are just like a window to like happiness.
Yeah. I mean, because I remember when I first learned about Kraftwerk, I'll never fucking forget it. I was in a record shop with my friend and digging through records, and she's like, "You don't know Kraftwerk?" I was like, "Well, no, I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know Kraftwerk?" And then some guy was in there too, and he's like, "I have a tie. How come you don't know about Kraftwerk?" I'm like, "Fuck this. This is fucking dumb."
Yeah.
Don't scold people for not knowing shit. Educate people for not knowing shit, you know?
You're like, fuck. And then, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, like I was saying earlier with that job I had back in like high school, where it was perfect because they were motivated to tell me about things, because then I would get paid in records and they wouldn't actually have to pay me money. You know, that was like the loop. Whereas like, I'm sure there was still some elitist, you know, like there was nothing they loved more than like, I mean, Eldon loved being like, "Oh, dude, you don't have this? Seriously, you don't have this?" And I'd be like,
yeah,
like, dude, you've been into music for like 30 years, and I'm like, you know, 18 or 19, you know?
Yeah, right, totally.
I don't know anything. I'm a kid, you know?
It's like, all you listen is Jimi Hendrix? What the fuck's wrong with you? It's like, come on. I haven't learned anything yet. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, record collecting or music taste should not be a dick measuring contest. Like, oh, you only have so much vinyl or whatever the fuck. Who gives a fuck?
100%.
It's music. But it's unavoidable, unfortunately, you know.
I mean, you should like roast your friends and bust their balls, but like, that's your friend, so they know it's coming. But like, if it, you know, like, you don't need to be a dick to someone just because they don't know any better, you know?
Right. That's just lame.
Yeah, totally. So you know, elitism's kind of fun, but it's mostly stupid. So
it's always lame.
Yeah. Next up is the Country Teasers. This band, I missed the initial discovery of this band, which was actually for my group of friends, occurred at the Phoenix Theater here in lovely Petaluma. And these guys opened if I'm recalling this correctly, these guys opened for Wesley Willis. And
oh, no shit. I didn't know he played at the fucking Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Again, not a long time ago. So, you know, rest in peace, Wesley Willis. So these guys opened their, you know, I want to say like Irish and from the UK, that sort of thing. And they come out and they just proceed to get hammered on stage and do this wonderful rockin' set. And apparently while they were playing, they passed around at least one bottle and dusted it throughout their set and just killed it. And all my friends were just ranting about how it was the best show ever. And then, I don't know, maybe like a year or two later, they came back, and the Country Teasers put on some of the best live shows. So much fun. We saw them in the city a couple times, and we saw them in San Francisco. And then And then they had a show in Davis, so me and a bunch of friends like carpooled up there and got like a hotel across the street from the venue. But like the venue was some like weird like coffee shop / venue type thing, and we were like smuggling in beers, and they kept threatening to kick us out. But the best shows, the most fun, and
You're like, this is rock and roll, baby. Come on.
yeah, just a great, wonderful band.
Well, Smella Sue is in the chat here. Just said that she was at that show too. That first one at the Phoenix, I believe.
Oh fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
you guys were there. You know each other. You were there. You didn't even know each other there.
Well, no, I missed the Phoenix show. So
I see. I see.
Once my friends went to the Phoenix show, but unfortunately I missed it because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But
I actually go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say that's one of the things about live shows and why you should always go to a show, even if you're like, I'm tired, I got work in the morning. Always go to a show because you never know. There's gonna be some opener that you've never heard of that may just blow your fucking mind. Like when the Teasers played in San Francisco, there was this one-man band called Easy Tiger that played before them that was doing the whole, like, he was playing drums, had a guitar, had a loop pedal. But I mean, I want to say this was probably like, I don't know, maybe like 2004 or something like that. Like now I feel like loop pedals, like one-man band with a loop pedal has become really commonplace and all that. Like, I think for me, this was the first time I'd seen someone do that. And it was just chaos and it was so great. And I remember I was inside watching it and a bunch of my friends had gone outside to smoke. And I was like in there, like texting, I'm like, dude, you guys got to get the fuck back in here. Like, you got to see this. This is fucking crazy. And I mean, I have no idea whatever became of that guy. I have one record of his that's like, I think it's like a split that doesn't do what he did live justice at all. It was just crazy, but live music is always the best.
Yeah.
Everyone should always go see live music.
Well, and I know maybe about half of the tracks or the artists that you selected. And this was a new one for me, the Country Teasers. And I really like that fucking song. So next time they come around, I'm definitely going to check them out.
Unfortunately, I think they are done.
Son of a bitch. Well, if I see the record in a bin, I will buy it.
Yeah, I 100% recommend that. They're great. Ben Wallers was the mastermind behind the band, and I think they've packed it up. Actually, when we went to what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4 Go. Not so long ago, I picked up a reissue, or it's not a reissue, but it's a new album that is essentially like a recording. I don't know if it's live or a studio recording from a few years back, but I caught one there that I'd never seen before, and it's a ripper.
Nice.
So after them comes the Pain Teens. This is, I'm trying to hold it to not get a glare.
You got it.
This is a band from Texas. I want to say maybe August.
Let's see. I think I got some notes here.
It's either Houston or Austin, one of the two.
Houston.
Okay. I think maybe it was recorded in Austin or the label's in Austin. One of those things. They kind of had this weird vibe where they were kind of associated with a lot of like the kind of noise scene that was happening back then. I want to say maybe this is like a 90s type thing. But yeah, so they were doing a lot of like weird tape loop stuff in addition to kind of doing more like, I don't know, more melodic and more traditional music type stuff. But yeah, it's just a great kind of catchy song, and I thought it just kind of played well with the Teasers, so I went with that.
Yeah.
And then next up is this masterpiece, Current 93, Lucifer over London. This is a band that you could definitely say was associated with what I started things off with, Coil and Psychic TV and Throbbing Gristle and all that. David Tibet is the driving force behind this, and he did a lot of wild experimental groundbreaking things. I mean, there's everything from, everyone from like Crass to, fuck, I don't know, to endless metal bands have been influenced by the things David Tibet has done, and it's been everything from really experimental music to like neo folk, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I saw was neo folk or post industrial folk.
Exactly, a lot of it is
very esoteric.
Yeah, very very esoteric, and he's very involved in all of that, and he's gone on to like he's putting out books and other people's books, and very much so obsessed with the occult and weird things, and
especially with that cover.
It's a great cover, and I mean, this track is also like very outside of what is typically the sound for Current 93.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with like a Sabbath riff. And
it does. Yes. It's Paranoid, I think.
Yeah. And then it cuts into, his amazing. Yeah, well, I just wanted to say to anyone who's just jumping on, Hot Sloth, thanks for saying hi. This is the Vinyl View where I'm interviewing Mike Potter. I had him make me a playlist, but the tracks that he chose have to come from his actual record collection. If you want to listen to the playlist while we're talking, I'm trying to circumnavigate the DMCA bullshit copyright infringements. You can go to sconebone.com/vinylview. The link is there in the chat. And if you want to see his playlist, you can do !playlist. And !listen will get you to the website. So, yeah, Potter's showing me, basically talking about the tracks that he picked. What do we got next? Okay, next up, this is a record that I actually don't really know much of anything about. This band, Black Pearl, this was one of those things where I'm trying to remember where actually, you know what? I think I finally actually scored this from
Radio Thrift.
Yeah,
I recognize the label, his labeling price. Yeah.
Also, speaking of that, that's a great thing. At one time I was at your house and I was flipping through your record and I remember seeing a price tag and I was like, fuck, I don't know where that price tag comes from, and it was like bugging me.
Yeah,
I couldn't place the price tag, and I love that level of record
fucking collecting nerdery, dude.
Where it's one thing when it's obvious, and like the Last Record Store has the stickers that say the Last Record Store, or like Village Music used to have their Village Music sticker.
Right.
Like when it's an obvious giveaway, whatever. But there's also those ones where you're like, oh, I know where that's from, even though it doesn't say. Like,
you know what I always really liked about Last Record Store is that they date their stickers. So I'd be like, oh, I bought that in 2007.
What?
Yeah, they'll do month and year.
You're blowing my mind right now,
dude. Oh yeah, dude.
I'm gonna have to look at some records. I don't know that they do that. What I always do is I always throw my receipt in like one of the records. Like every time I buy records from them, I just throw the receipt in the sleeve.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
The records. Because that way it's kind of, I mean, it doesn't say anything other than a dollar amount, but I'm like, okay, well, at least I know, like, when I bought the record and, like, oh, fuck, I went crazy that day, or like, okay, well, like, that day I didn't find too much, or like, that day I had to watch my wallet,
Yeah.
Like,
well, speaking of price, I saw that it was $12. So you spent $12 on a record you knew nothing about.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person, man.
Crazy. What's the highest you spent on an experimental or educational buy, I would say?
The most I spent...
Like you knew nothing about it, but you're like, I have to have it.
I mean, I typically with records I don't know about, I'm pretty conservative, so I'm not going to spend like $10, $15.
Yeah.
And even that's like pushing it. Usually I won't go that high, but so this record, Black Pearl, which is a total ripper, and I'm super glad I bought it.
Nice.
It's I remembered I remembered that when I saw it, I remembered that a friend of mine, and I couldn't remember who, but I remember somebody like either they played it for me or something happened, but I remember being like, oh fuck, one of these days I got to get that record. But it was like most of the time when I buy records, I just go into a record store and I go through everything because you never know what you're going to find, and typically I prefer to buy used records. And so with this, I couldn't even remember exactly who had tipped me off to it. I want to say maybe it was Eons, like DJ Eons one. I think maybe like was doing a set at a bar somewhere and he played a track off here. I can't remember for sure, but it was I just remember seeing it, like, oh dude, somebody whose taste I like played that and I need that record. And there it finally is. So I jumped at it, and even when I bought it, I was kind of like, should I put, like, I like went back and nearly put it back, and then fuck it, I'll just buy it, and super happy I bought it. It was great.
Yeah, that's always the nice reward, right? You're like, fuck, but then you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I've had some times where I went to put a record back and was like, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna buy it, and then I got home and was like, I shouldn't have bought that record. But that's the name of the game. Like, you can't win them all. They can't all be eggs. And then I followed it up with this completely insane record, Exuma, which this is just madness. Again, this was another record that a friend of mine recommended to me, and this one he played for me, and I heard it and was like, oh god, this is, I mean, are you seeing this gatefold?
Yeah, it's fucking rad.
I'm not sure if I got the whole thing in front of me.
Yeah, you got it in there. You get it. I got you.
It's in front of my face.
Yeah.
But Exuma is just incredible. There's an island called Exuma, as far as my understanding goes, and he's originally from there and then moved to New York. And I think he was doing shows around the same time that, like, Bob Dylan and shit like that was happening in, I've never been to New York. Sorry for all my New York friends that I'm going to just leave it at that, because
you're missing out. You're missing out, dude.
But yeah, I've heard great things, but I hate humidity a whole lot.
Oh yeah, just don't go when it's humid. Go in October. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind. Unfortunately, most of my friends have moved back from there, so now I'm like, I don't even have like a tiny
reason now. Yeah, or a couch to sleep on.
Yeah, but Exuma's incredible.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't really know anything about him until you sent me that playlist however long ago, and now I see him all over the place. It's like, how that goes. Yeah, I saw him in the bin at Rain Dog recently.
You should buy it.
They wanted $30 for it.
Oh,
I don't spend that much on an experimental buy.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to, like, I'll play it for you, and they're incredible. So I have 3 of his records now. Exuma self-titled, Exuma 2 being the second one, and then the one I just got the other day is called like Do a Diddy or something like it. It's like I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's crazy and it's good, and I feel like the first one and the second one kind of had this like insane, almost like religious vibe to it going on. It's like it's somewhere between like what you would get in some crazy revivalist church, whatever, mixed with some like weird like voodoo music, but there's like this intensity that you kind of only get with like religious music, if that makes sense.
I saw it described as freak folk.
Yeah, or
psychedelic folk, but I think that was probably a little more telling based on what you described.
Yeah, no, I could see that explanation. And then the third one is I feel like it's getting into more like kind of traditional music as opposed to having this weird like like fever-ridden religious vibe going on.
Okay.
It's kind of what I love the most. Like, it's just so insane.
So Hot Sloth just asked what we were drinking. I'm still drinking what I normally drink, which is Evan Williams, the Pandemic Special. I'm not getting paid by Evan Williams. I probably should, though, because I drink this all the time on fucking stream.
They should. You should
come on,
reach out to them.
I really am like a spokesperson because it's the best fucking deal and it's clean whiskey and it's made well.
Dude,
but
speaking of alcohol endorsements, a buddy of mine has many years ago, he got the country club crown tattooed on himself. And he sent Country Club, the makers of that fine malt liquor, he sent them a picture. He wrote them a letter and he sent them a picture of his tattoo and was like, hey man, I love your product so much. I've got a tattoo. Could you give me like a case or like a shirt or something?
Totally.
Never got a response from those fucking assholes.
Well, you almost inspired me to write a letter to Evan Williams or Heaven Hill Distillery. Be like, hey, come on, I drink this every fucking day.
You should.
Because you want to know the fucked up thing? This used to be $15.99 for a 2-liter bottle. I went to the fucking goddamn grocery store and it was $1.50 more. So either it's inflation, lack of supply, or I just been drinking too much of it. They need to up their price.
I don't know. Maybe next time Stella goes to get some dogs, you have her pick up some Evan Williams from Costco.
They don't carry it there.
Really? That's
no.
Costco has great prices on booze. I'll give them that.
They do, but you know what? It depends on which Costco you go to in terms of their selection.
That makes sense.
The Costco in Novato has a fucking awesome liquor selection that the Costco in Roanoke Park does not have.
Ooh. Well,
it's all demographics and what people buy. Roanoke Park is all beer.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of beer drinking hillbillies.
Like it saves her that much time to just go to Novato instead of Roanoke Park.
It's the same distance.
Yeah. I'll write a strongly worded letter to her and Scone Rollin.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I don't know why they go up there. Anyways, what's next?
So next up is Duran Jones, and this record is fucking awesome. This is a live record. Duran Jones and the Indications. I meant no disrespect to the Indications because you can't have a good band without a band. So this was a band that I didn't know about, and my buddy Ben, who now lives here in Petaluma, he bartends up at Jasper's in Sebastopol. Go get a drink from him, say hello. One day he hit me and was like, hey man, there's a great show happening at the Mystic, a venue you're familiar with. And he was like, dude, it was like on a Wednesday night or something like that. I was like, man, I got work tomorrow, but so it goes back to always go to a show because you're gonna have a better time than if you just
always.
And so I went and was just totally blown away. These are like young.
What year was that?
What?
What year was that?
Oh, this was maybe a year. Well, I guess because it.
Or maybe 2 years. Yeah, right.
No sense of time because of the pandemic, but it was probably like 3 years ago because it was definitely before the pandemic.
Yeah, because I remember him coming through, and I wasn't working. I didn't even go, and everyone's was talking it up because a lot of the kind of neo or the retro soul sounds play through that venue because there was Lee Fields, who was another one who he's a more contemporary artist, but plays that 60s, 70s soul sound.
Absolutely. I mean, they're definitely going for like a Sam Cooke vibe.
Right.
It is music from another era played now by, I don't know, but I would guess these guys are probably in their like early 30s, late 20s,
Yeah, and it still sound like, to me, I've always felt those artists still stay true to the sound. They weren't very postmodernist. They were more actually doing it.
Yeah, no, I was blown away. Like I went more because a bunch of friends I hadn't seen in a long time were going to be at this show. And I was like, like there's going to be some like half-assed soul, but I'm going to get to see some old friends. And then I went and I was like, you guys shut the fuck up. I want to listen to this. You know, like initially we like sat up top, and I even was like, hey, we should just go sit up front, like, or up top, you know, like sit in the balcony, like let's sit down and talk instead of like standing up front, like where we're not going to be able to talk. And I was like, hey man, like, you guys want to go down front? Because like, I'd rather listen to this than talk.
I want to actually experience music and not listen to you guys. Yeah.
Which I mean, you know,
As it goes.
Yeah, all wonderful people that were there, but it was an incredible show. And if you ever get the chance to see them, go see them. And then after that, Charles Bradley.
Some more of that retro soul.
More of that retro soul.
Actually, but I think that album is from 1970. No.
You're entirely wrong.
I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, you're completely wrong. So this is this crazy thing. Charles Bradley is on the
2011. Yeah, it's all it's Daptones. Yeah.
So Daptone is a New York based label, and they have their house band. This is Menahan Street Band is what's backing him, and they also, the Menahan Street Band puts out great records. I got a bunch of their stuff, and it's awesome. There's actually an incredible documentary about Charles Bradley. So he used to do James Brown covers, and he went by the name of Black Velvet, I want to say.
Okay.
And so he did that like around town, whatever, was making no money. And then somehow or another, the dudes from Daptone came across him and were like, oh my God, like, you're fucking incredible. We've got a band. Would you like to make music with us, you know? And so they started making music and writing songs, and so I want to say Charles Bradley was like in his 50s. He was like 50 something when he started making music with the Daptones, and then or with the Menahan Street Band, you know, the Daptone label. And you know, he since went on to tour the world. He's an incredible soul singer. He was pretty much like illiterate when he started playing music with them. They got him like a tutor to start, you know, so he could learn to read and write, so he could write his own lyrics, because for the most part he just wrote the songs in his head and then just remembered them, and that was that. That's how he did it. So like, you know, anytime he played live, it might be slightly different depending on how he remembered the lyrics that he made up.
Right.
He couldn't even write them down. But the documentary that was made about him is heartbreaking and intense. And unfortunately, he recently died of cancer a few years back. But at least he got to become a success instead of just being in a cover band and, like, you know, working shit jobs and, you know, sleeping in a basement. He became a success, and he toured the world and made all this amazing music. Definitely check out Charles Bradley. Incredible singer, artist, all that. And then after that is a band that needs absolutely no introduction, Maggot Brain.
Funkadelic.
Yeah. I mean, this album is just so fucking incredible. You know, Funkadelic needs no introduction. Maggot Brain should need no introduction. I almost played the title track, Maggot Brain, because that...
Why? The 12-minute fucking experimental psychedelic song?
So crazy. But
dude, there's a bar in the city that had an old school jukebox, and they had that album, but they crossed out Maggot Brain as an option. Like, do not fucking play this song.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have definitely played Maggot Brain at various bars around town, and I've had people give me a hard time. It is that track is so incredible, but you know, that I went with a much more upbeat and funky and fun. Like, I just felt like it flowed a little bit better.
Oh, me and your folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's a great album. So is that? I'm imagining that's a repress.
Oh yeah. No, I wish I had the original pressing, but I also,
I mean, good luck finding it, right?
I mean, if you want to find crazy rare records, go to Seattle to Daybreak Records. My boy RJ.
Oh, so someone tagged in my Instagram Daybreak Records.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So RJ is a maniac. That dude scours the world, and his record store is insane. Like, don't show up if you're shy on cash because he's got all the fucking heaters.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
what he specializes in is early or original pressings and very clean pressings.
Yeah.
Uh, it's crazy. I don't know how he finds all the shit he finds, but
So he's the dude to go to if you got the dough.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, he's got heaters and he knows they're heaters. You know, it's a crazy place, and more power to him for hustling as hard as he does, because it ain't easy work to have a record store like he has with so much crazy shit in there.
Yeah.
But also you got to make it all the way up to Seattle, and we're here in Cataluna.
I mean, if I go up to Portland, I'm like right there, right?
Yeah, it's not far from there.
Yeah.
And then after to try to keep it rolling, after Funkadelic, I got Budos Band, which again is another Daptone band. The Budos Band does like instrumental, funky soul, amazing stuff. They're all incredible music.
Afrobeat.
Yeah. And the bass player of Budos plays in this amazing metal band. If you're into kind of like clunky heavy metal, check out Python. There's some New York Italians that like to fucking rock. And
well, it's interesting because, you know, I researched every track because I wanted to be informed of what you picked, and I already know about the Budos Band. I've liked them for a really long time. I've loved the Afrobeat, you know, revival in the 90s and 2000s. But I found it interesting that they were also described as doom rock.
Well,
that track in particular, there is this kind of like doomy metal kind of sound, but not metal, but rock. But as soon as the horns come in, it obviously shifts away from that.
Sure.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting designation, like doom rock. What the fuck is that? Like, are we talking acid rock? It's a weird kind of sub within all the genres.
Sure.
And to label even Budos Band as that, I was like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Until I actually listened to it, I was like, all right, I kind of hear it.
Well, I feel like if you circle back and listen to Burnt Offerings, you know, like I appreciate the cover art to this and everything they do, but like the Burnt Offerings album cover almost looks like it's trying to be like a High on Fire thing or something. Like, I don't, you know, fuck it. If I ever see that dude again, he might be mad at me or something if he listens.
Well, from what I understand, they're heavy stoners, and when they're on stage, they curse a lot. They're just like, motherfuckers.
And they drank a lot.
They party hard.
No, and also to circle things back and make things more local, the Budos did play a free live show at Lagunitas in their little mini amphitheater a couple years ago. Unfortunately, I missed it, but I heard it was fucking incredible, and it blew the fucking roof off the place.
Nice.
And also, Charles Bradley, I have a poster over there from it, but maybe like 5 years ago or something like that, 6 years ago, I don't know. He played a show in the mini amphitheater at Lagunitas, and it was fucking incredible. Dude, it was nuts. It was one of the better live performances I've ever seen. I'm much more all about small venues, small shows, all that. I've never actually been to like a big show. I
have, and they fucking suck.
Yeah, it seems insane to me. Like I never been to like Shoreline or anything like that, and it just seems like weird to me. You know, like I don't know, but
no, it's very
it's impersonal. It seems to me
impersonal. Yeah, I was gonna say non-intimate, but
like,
you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but when Charles Bradley played at the Lagunitas mini amphitheater, and this was when it was still locally owned before Heineken got their international clause in there. Don't get me wrong, I love all the people that work at Lagunitas, and I used to spend a lot of time there. But
don't worry, I am not endorsed by or give a fuck about corporate beer.
My take is when the wonderful people of Hen House are right across the street and all my money stays local, it's like why wouldn't I just go to Hen House, you know?
Right.
Okay.
Brand drop.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, so let's take a little pause. I'm gonna use the bathroom.
Sure, and talk about 3 KBCA. How rad they are.
Let's take a little break. We'll be right back. What's up?
Right.
Sorry, I had to, use the facilities. And this is the thing with Twitch. You just create a little BRB button and then you're back.
So, I'm kind of disappointed in you because...
Fuck you fucking cocksucker.
But you didn't mute yourself, so I could hear you and Stella talking the whole time.
Yeah, I didn't hear shit.
I was like, man, I hope he says something embarrassing.
This is low grade, low production. I ain't getting paid for shit.
Yeah. You get what you pay for, right?
I'm a volunteer radio DJ. I drive a 1981 Volkswagen Rabbit turbo diesel pickup, all right?
That's a little more long-winded than a Dodge Stratus.
But you have to, exactly.
I'll allow it.
But you have to say the whole thing, right? You can't just say...
Naturally.
Yeah.
Shit, man, like I didn't realize how long I've been talking. Again, you should have told me like shut the fuck up or whatever.
I told you not to shut the fuck up. This is part. I didn't want to do the talking.
All right.
You're talking for me.
So next up after Budos, this is this insane. I'm trying to like maybe not get glare, but you're just gonna.
We got it. What is it?
This is a completely insane compilation record that I found at the last record store, which now that I'm looking at the price tag, it says $813. So I guess I bought this in August of 2013.
Telling you, they date them, dude. It's fucking rad.
Man, that you've completely
mind blown, right?
That piece of information made doing this radio / internet show.
Look, here's how it works. You made a playlist of me. I learned new music. Everyone watching right now and listening is learning new music. You're learning something too. This is what this is all about.
It's win-win. It's win-win.
Cheers.
So this is a.
Oh yeah, get it, get after it.
So
I don't think you ever said what you were drinking. You're on the Belvini now.
No, that was the end of the Smooth Ambler, and
now you're moving on.
Now I'm big boying it and getting to the Balvenie, which
big boy.
You'd think you'd do it the reverse way, start with Balvenie and switch to Smooth Ambler, but
Belvini's Scotch, is it not?
It is.
Well, I think you'd want to start with the sweet and move your way onto the smoke.
Well,
personally.
This Balvenie, the double wood, is actually not a peaty whiskey. Balvenie does make some peaty whiskeys, but this is not one of them. So anyways, this is, again, going into record stores and not looking for anything in particular. This is a record I found apparently in 2013 at the last record store. It is called Good God, Heavy Funk Covers of James Brown from all over the world, 1968 to 1974. It is a double LP, and this is one of the best things I've ever bought from the last
anywhere.
Record. That's not necessarily true, but this is a serious heavy platter from the last record store.
No, but it is true because you selected it. That's something that popped out of your mind to say, I got to play something from this. That came back to that.
Yeah, no, this is an incredible record because, I mean, let's face it, James Brown fucking rules. He's James Brown for a goddamn reason.
He's the godfather of soul.
Anyone who has a bunch of records probably has like 20 James Brown records. Like I feel like that just kind of goes without being said.
I only have one.
Jesus Christ, man, get your shit together.
I know, I suck.
Well, you got some cool other records.
I make up for it.
Yeah, but this thing is crazy. I mean, it's as the name implies.
What was the track and the artist that you played?
Oh, let's see here.
Walter Blanco?
Yeah. That sounds correct. That sounds correct. Walter Blanco, and it is
Tema d'Azzurra.
Yeah. Popcorn with a Feeling would be the translation of that.
Oh, interesting. I was curious.
And it's fucking incredible. It's completely insane. And then the next record, this record is what we started off talking about, records where you buy them based solely.
Totally.
So I bought this record, I don't know if you can see it, but 99 cents from the Goodwill over on Lakeville. This is the craziest. This has the track I picked. This is Buddy Miles. The track is The Segment, and it is hands down one of my favorite soul songs of all time. When I bought this record, I had no idea what it was. I was at the Goodwill because I stopped by on my way home from work, and I looked at this cover art, and I was just like, what
fuck?
the fuck?
Yes, dude. Hell yeah. Dude.
What's going on here?
Judge a record by its cover. It works.
And then where it gets crazy is, it starts, he's breathing out fire, and then that fire is
naked ladies.
Naked ladies in an orgy above volcanoes.
Fuck yes.
When you flip this gatefold over, the fire volcano continues onto the inside, and then it circles back into his America cape with his fat belly hanging out.
Dude. Fuck yes, that's awesome.
And then also another thing to pay attention to is, if you notice here, there's like this thing going on here. That is because that's the top of his afro from the front of the fucking record. Dude,
it should be like a fucking quad fold.
Yeah, I know. So when I saw this, I was like, I have no idea who Buddy Miles is, but this is like the most amazing album artwork I've ever seen in my fucking life. And so I bought it, I got it home, and I played it. And the segment to this day is one of my favorite soul/funk tracks ever. It's
fuck yeah, dude.
And it turns out I 100% did know who Buddy Miles was, because Buddy Miles is a drummer. So he is the drummer/singer of this band. And he also was the musical director / singer, whatever, for the California Raisins, like the stop.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that.
He also, I believe, at one point played drums for Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
Buddy Miles is a fucking heavy hitter. He is a big deal. And
dude was around. He was around.
Yeah. And I should have known who he was, but for some reason I didn't. And to this day, one of my favorite soul funk albums ever. Incredible artist. This is why you can sometimes judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And then after that, I'm going to say this wrong. You could probably pronounce it better because, but with you being Italian, Lucio Battisti or something like that.
Lucio Battisti.
So, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the thing, my parents always had a bunch of records, but music was never like super huge for them growing up. But I was going through my parents' record collection, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years ago or something like that. And I came across this record and I was just like, man, this looks kind of crazy. Like, what is it? And so I threw it on and I was completely blown away. And then I asked my mom about it. She's like, oh yeah, like, so apparently right before my parents got married, they went to Europe and they did kind of like a tour around Europe, and that was kind of like their test. They're like, okay, if we can travel together for like 3-4 months and not like want to murder each other, then maybe we got something, we should get married.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they did that, and it worked out great. They stayed married, so that's super rare. And my mom's like, oh yeah, I brought that back from Europe. Like,
no shit, dude. What a fucking relic.
She's like, I bought that in Italy. And like, I was like, oh man, well, like, you should keep it. She's like, no, I'll never listen to it. If you like it, keep it. And I fucking love that record. And it's a record my mom brought back from Italy in the 70s.
Yeah.
Because she was just like, I don't know, I like this thing, even though like music was never.
Well, I was really first off, when you pulled out the fucking 45, I was like, where the fuck did you get a Lucio Battisti 45? Because you're not going to find that shit anywhere.
No, I recently bought an LP of his that has this track on it.
Yeah, I was in a record shop and there was a re-release of an album he did in the 70s called Amore Non Amore. It was like a very experimental prog Italian rock album. Okay. But Lucio Battisti is he's huge in Italy. I'm familiar with him, and
she also brought back a Mina record, which you lived in Italy, so I'm sure you know of her. Like,
Amina, no, I don't know, but I don't know everything. I was there, but But Lucio Battisti, I would say, is like kind of the Bob Dylan of Italy in terms of his early stuff. But then when he got to the 70s, he did a lot of heavy kind of prog rock, experimental shit.
Okay.
And it's good. It's great stuff. So I was, when I saw Lucio Battisti on the playlist, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, no, so that was 100% shout out to Sue Potter.
Yeah.
Wonderful little lady. She brought that back, and I had no idea.
That's awesome.
But you saying he's like the Italian Bob Dylan totally makes sense, because I totally get that vibe from it. Like there's like, I mean, the track is mostly just him and acoustic guitar, and it's like it's very intense, though. It's like
like his early stuff is very very 60s. Like it's singer songwriter style. Yeah. The Italian music pop culture is singer songwriter. That's the only way you could describe it.
Yeah, and it's very intense. Like,
and then. In the 70s, it became more progressive. But there's, whatever. There's, as you know, there's the Italian metal groups and all that shit.
All chain, man. All chain.
Yeah.
So then I followed that up with Atomic Rooster, which...
So now we're getting into the proto-metal, hard rock shit.
Yeah, now this is like some 70s, like, heavy rock type thing.
Yeah.
This is... This one, now that I know that there's dates on the last record, I bought this in May of 2013, apparently, at the last record.
Oh, that was a good year for you for buying records.
Oh, dude, I found so many good things in all of the years, really.
Yeah, all of the years.
But Atomic Rooster, I bought this because I was like, man, that's a fucking great band name. And, like, the cover art's pretty all right. And then again, circling it back to judging a book by its cover, the band photo in the middle
is with the green berets. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's like a bunch of long hair hippies, which is surrounded by green berets, and I'm just like, that's so intense. And then I'm pretty sure I did "Death Walks Behind You."
Yeah, you did, which is the hit from that, I guess, if you would say.
Yeah. 100% is a hit from that. And then after that, followed it up with The Leather Nun.
Oh, that cover, dude, is so good.
Prime Mover, which, you can't go wrong with that cover. I think I heard about The Leather Nun from some other band covering them. I can't remember exactly. But it was kind of one of those things where, like, they were doing this, like, kind of weird... There was almost like an industrial vibe to it, And I was just like, it's such like a pulsing, like grinding track that I was like, it's like, this is perfect, and this like fits in with what I'm about to do. And then
and they were, I looked them up. They're out of Sweden, and they kind of did like they kind of went around different styles. It was garage rock.
Sure.
They did some industrial shit, like you're saying, because like we're Sweden, we're doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like Sweden and the Scandinavian countries in general have like, in Europe in general has a much bigger like, not only metal but like industrial drive to their music, whereas we just don't really have that here in the States.
No, dude. When I was in Germany, metal music is like pop music.
Yeah,
it's on the radio. 100%. It's on the fucking radio.
Yeah.
And I forget what city I was in. Like popped into a McDonald's because it was the only thing open. They were closing it down, and they're playing fucking metal. I was like, dude, this is fucking Europe, dude. Metal is pop.
I mean, there's a Judas Priest bar in Germany, I want to say, and like, I mean, even Yosuke, who runs Nuclear War Now Records, formerly out of Oakland, he's since moved shop to Texas. He ran a metal fest, and he used to host it in Germany because he was like, you get
the numbers.
Yeah, he was like, one, most of the bands are there, so I don't have to spend as much money to get everyone here.
Yeah.
And two, we just get better turnouts there. And even though he was based in Oakland, California, which
the heart of metal.
There's a lot of metal in the Bay Area, but it's like you got San Francisco and Oakland, and then you got to go all the way down to LA. Or you got to go all the way up to fucking Oregon,
New York, or whatever,
across the coast to New York. It's like you just can't do tours here in the States like you can in Europe with metal.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because I love metal. The majority of my record collection is metal. That is kind of like my base, but it's just not popular the way it is there. But what we do have is Deep Purple.
Deep Purple
next with Fireball. And this is just like such a driving great track. People, I don't know if you want to call it like just like rock that's super heavy, or if you want to call it metal, but Deep Purple,
proto metal is what they say. Proto metal.
Deep Purple just fucking rolls. And
from what I understand, it was like there was Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Deep Purple were the foundation of metal.
Sure. And
Black Sabbath probably being the most metalist of all, but they had those elements, all of them. Like Highway Star is like the fucking best proto metal track ever.
Yeah, right. Like I don't know. I shouldn't have said what we have is Deep Purple because but Deep Purple fucking rules. I love them.
Yeah.
Like Deep Purple, BOC, all that stuff is just so foundational to so much of what became metal. And
good shit.
After BOC, Bang. It's maybe a lesser known band, but nonetheless heavy rocking.
Out of good old Philadelphia.
Yeah, great band. And the crazy thing is, this is a reissue on Svest, which I want to say is a Scandinavian label. I could be wrong, but I think they're out of like Sweden or whatever is the label that reissued this. But yeah, Bang
fucking
is
Swedes, man.
Hey, man. Anyone who's willing to reissue a great album that is hard to find, like,
why the fuck not?
I don't care where you're from. But yeah, this record fucking rips. Super fucking cool. After that, I did Shaggy
from Sweden.
Yep, again from Sweden. This is again another reissue off of Cult Rock Classics. These guys a lot of crazy, previously impossible to find things that I mean, don't get me wrong, it's always cool to own the like original pressing or whatever, but
if you can fucking afford it or find it.
Exactly. And I mean also like a lot of times like reissues nowadays aren't cheap either, what with lacquer plants burning down and record store day getting
Yeah.
fucked up by the major labels. Like,
What's going on with that?
So I mean, record store day started out as independent labels trying to do things to drive more traffic to record stores. So it was like, okay, we're going to put out these like, reissues or special releases on record store days. So record store day was really started by the underground, which drives everything as far as I'm concerned. So it started as that. Small labels doing things to try to make this one day special to draw people in. And then once it became successful, then the major labels were like, oh fuck, there's money to be had. We'd like to take our slice. And so then they started taking over things. And so now you get like, they're repressing like Herb's Tijuana Brass Band, like that record with like the chick that's like
covered in whipped cream.
That you see in every fucking dollar bin.
And you want $30 fucking for it? Fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that sort of shit. Like major labels started repressing records. Like, we only press like 600 of this thing. It's like, but
we have this garbage record that's not really available except in every fucking dollar bin.
Dude,
go buy it.
600 in the dollar bin. Like nobody's buying it for fucking $30. And then because major labels will get so many more records pressed, pressing plants are like, yeah, we're going to take care of you because you give us so much more capital. And so
totally.
It became a thing where it's like, if you wanted records pressed, you couldn't do it half the year because half the year the pressing plants were already committed to like reissuing like No Doubt's whatever or whatever. Like, and if you're into that, whatever, I don't care. But
no judgment. But what the fuck? You're fucking up my cool, independent, obscure shit I want printed. Yeah. But you also mentioned the plant issue, and I know we've talked about this, which is the limited ability to press.
There was a lacquer plant that burned down, and unfortunately, pressing.
Where was that plant?
I want to say it was down in like Southern California or something like shit like that.
Yeah.
But the pressing of and I know a bunch of my friends are gonna like scold me about this later for having my details wrong, but like, fuck you, I've been drinking whiskey for hours.
Yeah, fuck you.
But yeah, so unfortunately, the process of pressing records is hugely environmentally unfriendly.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Always buy used.
And so there's a limited number of pressing plants, and there's also a limited number of places that produce lacquers. So lacquers are like the little like pucks, like the shit that they press into records or whatever.
It's the master, right? It's what makes the print into the vinyl.
Lacquers are the masters, not that.
Yeah.
And so a plant, like there was like one plant in the States that produced lacquers and it burned down. And once it burned down, like there's like this whole grandfather law where if you were an industry that pollutes heavily, you're like, yeah, but you've been polluting heavily for like 8 years. So like, yeah, just keep polluting. But if you're like, but I want to build a new plant that does it. So like, okay, great. Now you have to meet these new environmental standards, which at this point, just technology isn't there for it because nobody's bothered trying to figure out how to do it. So this lacquer plant burned down. So that limited the supply of what people could use to make records. And then on top of that, there's only a certain number of pressing plants. Like there's GZ Media in the Czech Republic. I think there's like a China one. There's like one in Italy. There's not very many pressing plants because it's such the
regulations. Yeah.
And so it's like, you go to like China where they're like, yeah, like we don't give a fuck about human rights or like we'll do whatever. Or you go to like the Czech Republic where again, they're like, yeah, well, we've been doing this a long time, so we're just going to keep doing it, Don't get me wrong, like the environment's cool and everything, but I also really like records. Yeah,
well, but again, if you've got these corporate labels pumping out. Like, I got David Bowie's first album. I didn't even know it was a record store item. I just was at the record shop. And I was like, oh, David Bowie's first album. And it's like, oh, you get 2 discs. You get the mono version and the stereo version. I don't give a fuck.
Do you really need to do that? Like
some dude spent $40 on that shit.
Fucking thing. But also, like, David Bowie fucking rules, and like that's probably.
I love David Bowie, but some dude spent $40 on that record, and I'm like,
you didn't buy it. I thought you said you bought it, and then you realized
I bought it used because it was basically someone had returned it to last record store. Like, I don't think I want this anymore.
Yeah, dude, I buy a lot of records that way, man.
Oh, dude, that's the best thing. The best thing about
now I want to come over and listen to them back to back.
Dude, the best thing about people buying records these days is that they're into it and they realize, oh, this is a whole fucking thing. I think I'll just get rid of my shit. Every time honestly, in the past few years, the shit that's in the used new arrivals bin has been fucking stellar because people gave up on record collecting because they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm into it anymore.
Dude,
I moved. I don't have space. Like, yeah, I have space, motherfucker. I'll buy them.
They buy that record. They fucking take their picture for their like Instagram, and then they fucking they do the download code, and then they fucking
right.
Which like cool, man. Do that shit.
Cool.
Like,
give me that shit. But going back to the record store day, it was like I bought what I thought was David Bowie's first album. Oh, okay, it's a repress, whatever. But it was a double album. The mono version and the stereo version. I'm like, is that what we're wasting our fucking time on?
Yeah, like, did you really need to press that? Like, dude.
Cool, I'm glad it originally came out in mono, but now I want to actually hear it split in stereo too? Side by side?
I fucking love David Bowie. And
I love David Bowie.
But I don't think, I wouldn't buy, like, reissues. It'd be like, man, I already have this, but, like, oh, man.
Well, I didn't have the album, so I bought it. That's why. I mean, it was more. I didn't even know that about. I didn't even know it was a double album. It was like $15. David Bowie's first album, repress. Okay, whatever. I'll never find that. But then, like, once I pulled it out, I was like, oh, there's two fucking records. Oh, wait, what? Oh, it's a record store day thing. I'm like, fuck that, dude.
It's the same record. God damn. I mean,
it's dumb. It's so dumb.
At least like not too long ago, there was these Sabbath reissues that were dubbed the End is Near, and I'm still kicking myself for not buying fucking more of them. So it was like you know, Master of Reality or you know like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It was all the Sabbath albums reissued. So the first vinyl was the album remastered, and then the second album was like studio outtakes and like, you know, weird B-side things that didn't make the cut. I bought like 1 or 2 of them, but I didn't buy them all. And now I'm like, fuck, I should have bought, because they were fucking expensive. But man, the 1 or 2 that I bought, I'm like, fuck, that's fucking killer. And like Sabbath is just one of those bands where I'm like, I need it all, you know, like
you can't go wrong with Sabbath, dude. It's just fucking gold.
Yeah, like I mean, like I have like weird, shitty Sabbath bootlegs that sound like trash, but I'm still like, I fucking love this, and I still listen to it, even though like it's like not good, you know. It's like I have some like terrible like Russian bootleg that just sounds.
So why didn't you throw Sabbath on the playlist?
Because I feel like that was unnecessary, you know. Like I was trying to throw more like kind of out there things on.
Yeah. Like well, it's funny because people ask me like, hey, what's your favorite metal band? I'm like, Sabbath. And I feel like that's like a throwaway, like, oh, I should be cooler and I should say some obscure shit. Like, no, fucking Black Sabbath, dude.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I mean, I kind of get that though, like not wanting to say Sabbath. Like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like I also like I grew up on punk rock. Like punk rock is how I got into music, really. And but if someone would be like, what's your favorite punk rock band? I would never say like the Misfits, but I
would.
but it's also kind of one of those things where it's like,
it's an obvious thing, right? It's obvious. Like, well, duh. So you like punk rock? Yeah, I like the Misfits. You're not really making a statement by saying you like the Misfits.
And also the punk rocks, you're the Misfits. You're like, is that not like some sort of like weird like poor like obsessed thing. Like, is the Misfits really punk rock? I mean, it is, but maybe it's not. You know, like,
why not?
like they're like talking about skulls the whole time. Like,
That's total punk rock.
There's no like political leanings to it, which
I see. But on that element of, well, that's why they're always defined as horror punk.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
because it's not punk. Like, it's not like rock and roll being revived and saying, I hate my girlfriend, or I hate that I don't have a job kind of theme.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's basically punk rock is just a reiteration of rock and roll. But the Misfits were like, I'm a fly with 20 eyes.
Yeah, like, I'd rather talk about skulls or being dead.
Yeah. Or zombies, or where the fuck.
Yeah. Lots of zombies. Lots of, like, eating brains. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
And that's cool as shit, man. Like,
well, and that's what always separated them, right? They were always a little different from the cut.
And then, I mean, you know, there's like endless, you know, if you want to get into like them, like, you know, assaulting people in the crowd or something for not receiving them the way they wanted to be received, or what.
Is that when Danzig punched somebody?
He like there was like a whole thing where, like, I think it actually happened here in San Francisco, where like he like kicked some dude in the crowd, and then it was like a whole fucking thing. You know, there's
whatever, dude. If there's a fucking pit and you get hit by the musician, you fucking better expect that. That's just fucking dumb.
There's a lot of ins and outs, and I obviously wasn't there, and I don't know, so I have no speaking on it. I really like.
All right, I don't know where my PA is.
I can hear your glass rattling. So.
Well, if she's watching. Oh, we're at the last track, right? Oh no, the second to last track.
Yeah, we're pretty close. So Pagan Altar. This is another band that kind of like, I don't know, like I feel like they kind of like fell by the waysides, and like most people didn't know about them. And
from what I read, you're absolutely right.
And then people started doing reissues. Like there's this label, Buried by Time and Dust.
I'm petting the cat.
Well, thank you, my PA. My PA, she is so thoughtful and sweet.
I want to say like Buried by Time and Dust is actually out of like Danville or something crazy like that. But Buried by Time and Dust is a record label that does a lot of like really fucking great reissues.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Pagan Altar is another one of those bands where like I had like some weird like CD that I think was a bootleg that I caught when I was working at that mail order spot back in like, you know, 2000 or whatever. And then more recently there's been a bunch of there's been like a whole reissue campaign of a bunch of their stuff.
Yeah.
They have this really weird vibe where like the vocalist has this kind of like really high pitched singing style that maybe is kind of hard to get behind, and like some of these bootlegs were poorly mastered.
Well, I mean, you're talking like Iron Maiden style, like, yeah. That's what you're talking about, or
like no. So Iron Maiden hit, like, Bruce Dickinson hits high notes, but he doesn't he doesn't just stay in that high register. I feel like Pagan Altar like tends to
they continually
they just stay in this weird high register. It's a very bizarre style of singing that I don't really understand, but like Pagan Altar is cool as shit, man. Like,
well, I read about him. Apparently, it was a father and son band.
Oh shit! I didn't.
I mean, they were. I'm not sure where they were out of, but that song in particular was from 1982.
Yeah.
But they weren't commercially released until 98.
Yeah. I mean, like that was kind of the thing, is they just kind of like never got much attention and whatever.
No, they got lost in all the other fucking metal bands that were out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, metal's cool as shit, and there's a lot of really cool metal, so like it kind of makes sense. Unfortunately, you know, like they can't all raise to the top. And then the final track was Marquis de Sade, which this is a I don't know if it's a reissue or if it's just like them putting this out for the first time, whatever. But High Roller Recordings is another label that like does a lot of great old kind of obscure metal and reissues it. And this is just like I thought it was just a great way to end it because it's
well, this is from 81, right? Am I right?
That sounds about right. Yeah, the version somewhere up in the mountains. Yeah, no, this is the single version from 81. There was a earlier kind of demo version from 79 that's also on this record.
Yeah.
That's how cool this record is. There's like 6 songs on it, and 2 of them are the fucking same. One's a version from 81 and the other's from 79. But yeah, I got this I got this from CW Productions.
Is that the original album cover?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It looks very modern, but
well, I mean,
yeah, no, it's a repressing.
I mean, this album is definitely a repress, but I have no idea if that's what the original artwork was or if it was something different. But I mean, like,
yeah,
like look at that band photo. That
dude, fuck yeah.
Those are some dudes who mean fucking business.
Means metal.
Yeah. But yeah, my CW Productions out of Oregon, they get some great metal reissues in, and they're very much into metal and that old heavy style.
That's good shit.
I think that is all of the things, and I can't believe how long we've talked.
Well, that was the intention, dude. We were gonna hang out and fucking drink whiskey and talk music, dude. What you thought it'd be like a half hour?
We did it. What?
You think it was gonna be a half hour?
I thought it was gonna be like pretty short. I don't know.
No, because I wanted it to be this kind of free form. Let's talk some fucking shit, dude, for like hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, we did
so,
it.
Fucking mission accomplished, dude.
We can keep shooting the shit if you want. Like,
yeah, dude, I'm hanging out. Dude, this whole thing, Twitch in general, I find is about hanging out and not giving a fuck. I'll straight up play fucking video games for 5 hours, drinking whiskey, and talking to people.
Fair enough.
It's not, the episode I did with Brian earlier, a few months ago on YouTube, where I edited it down, it was like, well, I want it to be 15 minutes. Nah, pop in when you want. Let's hang out. Let's chill out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. I will say, like, since you were like asking like about like how I got into this absurd thing, I think I need to take this opportunity to say all credit to Mike Tirico. If you grew up in Novato, you know Mike Tirico. He was like the first punk rock dude, and that he's the first person who had an actual record collection.
So who is Mike Tirico? I don't know. I didn't grow up in Novato. I'm from Philly, baby.
You're fucking missing out. He is the nicest human being I think I've ever met in my life. He is like the original punk rocker from Novato. Like, in like the early 90s, he was the first punk kid. And, like I grew up being like a skate rat kid, and we would go downtown to Taco Bell because there was this curb with like a big lip, and we waxed the curbs. And then there was like the bus stop bench, and then there was like this other ledge that sloped down, and we waxed all those curbs. And it was just like you went downtown and you hung out until some other kids showed up, and that was what you did. And like, I don't know, I guess it was probably like mid 90s or something like that.
Well, where's Mike Tirico now?
I think I don't know for sure, but I think he still works at the Goodwill in Novato at like the pickup station a couple days a week. So if you go and like donate some stuff in Novato, Mike's.
Oh, no wonder the dude who collects vinyl is working at the Goodwill pickup station so he can fucking grab all the good shit that I can't get.
He also used to he worked at Watts Music in Novato, which is like the
Sounds about right.
record store in Novato. Also back like if we're shooting out or doing shout outs to old school Novato things, Toontown Sound used to be the shit. They used to be in this weird corner angled building, like right next to what used to be a train station near what is now Whole Foods in Novato. They tore the building down, but Watts Music or Toontown Sound used to be there, and then it moved down the street, and it was like this other spot. But Watts Music predated Toontown Sound. Those were the record stores growing up. Was Toontown Sound and Watts Music. Like I grew up walking distance from those two spots, and so when I was a little kid, I used to just go there and dig both spots. Mike Tirico got a job working at Watts, and so he had them carrying like Amoebics and like all, like Nausea, like all these like cool like crust punk bands and all this shit. And it used to be like we'd go downtown and I'd bring a blank tape with me. I'd be like, "Hey Mike, like here's a blank tape. Could you
make me a fucking playlist, dude? Fuck yeah, hell yeah."
And so like maybe like 3 weeks later or something like that, he'd be like, "Oh man, here's your tape," and it would never be the same tape I gave him because like when you're
but it was a tape with music.
Yeah, when you're a little kid, you obsess over details because you're like, dude, like I mowed fucking lawns to be able to afford to buy.
I think maybe you obsess over details.
Yeah, I fucking.
You recognize that like that's not the fucking tape I gave you.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I mowed lawns for like fucking weeks so I could afford to buy that TDK. And
yeah, right. Yeah, that fucking garbage tape.
But no, it was always cool. And then there were mixtapes that I spent years, like literally years, tracking down every single record off that tape. Like every single track. And then there'd be times where I was like, man, he gave me this mixtape, and this band was like so fucking cool. This was my jam off the tape. And then I finally could find like one album by that band, and I fucking buy it, and it's like it just sucked. And I'd be like, oh man, and then I'd see him, and I'd be like, dude, like you made me that mixtape like a year ago, and this track was so good, and then I bought this album by that band, and it was fucking awful. And he's like, oh yeah, like why'd you buy that one? Like you got to buy this one. Like this is the album to buy. Like, but like that used to be like, when I got into this, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't like, tell me a band and I'm going to download their entire discography in 30 seconds. Like there was, and that was so much cool. Like I feel like that gave so much more value to so many things, and then also like I had older sisters, so like they didn't tell me shit about cool music, but fortunately a bunch of my friends had older brothers, and in addition to like beating us up and making fun of us, they would like tell us about cool music, so yeah. Like that like, was
fuck you should listen to Sabbath.
Yeah. They're like, I'm gonna shoot you with this BB gun and shove you in a laundry basket and roll you down the hill, but like you should listen to this fucking punk band while you're doing it. And we're like, could you just let me listen to the punk band and not beat me up? Like.
Yeah, I used to get a lot of hand-me-downs on tape, and it was it's weird because now that I start doing the punk rock and metal episode, I see those album covers that I used to get hand-me-downs. It was like, oh, Testament, I had that on tape.
Yeah.
Megadeth, I had that on tape. It's this kind of weird throwback to what I used to get handed down. And I used to get all the old like Sabbath albums without Dio or even fucking Ozzy, like the shittier Sabbath shit. But I was like, this is cool.
Whoa. Let's not say anything crazy about Sabbath. Again, I love all eras of Sabbath. I'll listen to some Richie Blackmore Sabbath, man. Don't test me.
Well, first off, there would be no Sabbath without Ozzy, and there would be no Ozzy without Sabbath.
I mean, obviously, era is the best.
But when your older brothers give you some fucking tapes because they don't want them, it's because it's not the height of Sabbath. It's not the best of Sabbath. They're like, take the Sabbath we don't want.
Yeah.
Now, that era of Sabbath is very typical or part of that scene that is metal. And if, you listen to my show, that's kind of the stuff that I play. It's not like, oh, this is the best band in the world. No, this is the band that was part of that scene. Sure. They encompassed that sound.
Sure.
And that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the post-Dio Sabbath is part of that sound.
I mean, also that was another thing. I feel like anybody who's like worth their salt in DJing, like, you should play your own shit, but you should also, to a certain extent, try to play to your crowd, And I feel like
I don't. As a radio DJ, I do not. No. I play the sounds.
In general, you tend to play older music. That's been my takeaway from listening to
right.
And so I tried to do that to a certain extent. Like I was like, I don't necessarily need to play like new things because this is more about like where things.
But it depends on what you're doing. Like what are you playing for? Who are you making a playlist for? You talking for your friends?
No. When I made this playlist.
Oh yeah.
Like I was like, I want to play weird things, but I also want to like play like older things that influence a lot of what's happening now, as opposed to like new cool bands. Like I did play some new things. Like there was like Duran Jones, and there was some newer things, and like especially in the soul section. But as far as like metal, where like I feel like much more comfortable like fucking around and doing like weird cutty metal things.
Look, I'll tell you the truth. You're my 21st guest. The other 20 were except for Brian. 19 other guests were in the studio.
Like a special child. He has.
Well, whatever. The point that I'm trying to make is that before this format, which was bring your records into the studio, we'll play them together, I would go in blind to whatever they brought in.
I think that's. Sorry, I just like leaned on the table and shook the game.
I don't give a fuck.
I think that's fucking cool. And once things open up,
it's
again,
cool, but it's not. I'll tell you why. Because I made it specific that I don't want top 40 shit. I don't want someone who collects dollar bin records and that's like, oh, okay, I correct whatever. No, I want to have something that's unique. Because whatever is being already played on the radio is the shit that's the dollar bins, right?
Yeah. So I think I get where you're going. So when you go in blind, sometimes people show up with shit and you can't be like, hey man, like do better or don't bother.
But I have no choice. I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, because it's happening.
So I had a station manager on as a guest once. And the station manager was a sound dude for the Cramps.
Oh fuck.
He toured with John Lee Hooker, like tons of dudes. I was like, look, just make me
and John Lee Hooker. That is
all of them, dude. All of them. I was like, just bring in vinyl of the bands that you toured with. And so his playlist was just kind of all over the place, and like the last set was a bunch of smooth jazz. I was like, nah, we're cutting all that. He's like, well, but this is my show. I was like, no, this is my show, and if I don't think it's gonna sound good, we're cutting it. Like he was a tour manager for the fucking Clash.
That's fucking wild.
And you're not putting the Clash in? No, we're putting the fucking Clash in.
Wow, that's fucking wild. But I mean, also it takes all kinds, and also like, man, if you had to be the tour manager for the Clash, are you telling me that like by the end of it, you're not like, fuck you guys, close quarters makes everyone enemies, you know. But shit, like I kind of like I like that idea. Once things open back up, like let me do a mystery set at your show. I
the idea of this format.
Not play any smooth jazz. How about that?
Please fucking don't. But the idea of what I'm trying to do with this format is that I am not bounded to location.
Sure, like that's cool too. That's cool too.
And I'll tell you the truth, Easy Mo B, and if he's watching, which he's not, but maybe someday he will, is a record producer that I've always been a huge fan of because exactly what we talked about, which is you hear these 90s hip-hop tracks, you're like, oh, that's a great 90s hip-hop track. Guess who fucking produced that? Easy Mo B.
Man.
And Tupac and Biggie, and it's like this kind of...
Shit, try to find Kyrie, man. Like
whoever, but honestly, it's this continuation of...
Eddie Spaghetti. Like
consistency.
Spaghetti shit.
Like, let's take even Rick Rubin, for example, who took the Beastie Boys... into what they were doing. Or Slayer. Slayer was basically a thrash metal SF sound, right? Rick Rubin took them to the next level, which made them Slayer. The producer.
I don't know, man. Like Slayer.
The first album, I mean, you're talking like the first album is very thrash, very SF thrash. But the later albums, I'm telling you, it's Rick Rubin, Def Jam, who basically was like, yo, this is what you're going to be doing. Crafted.
I'm not going to say that Rick Rubin didn't have an influence, but like, careful what you say about Slayer, buddy.
Whatever. The same thing with Danzig. It's the same fucking thing. Danzig was like, hey, we're doing it. No, Rick Rubin comes around like, no, you're doing this.
We're talking about werewolves so much. Let's focus more on skulls.
The producer is the person who makes the music, dude.
No, like the band is the people who make the music. The producer can influence a lot of things, but the band makes the fucking music, man.
You're right, but there's a guidance, and the guidance comes from the producer.
Yeah, guidance to a certain extent, but
dude, I mean, honestly, like in any history of music production, the producer is the one like, oh, this is why the Doors had their sound. This is why this had that sound. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
you don't agree. Hey, Amanita, I just saw that you rated. I appreciate the raid. What's going on, man? This is the VinylView episode with Mike Potter. Mike made me a playlist based off his record collection. We already went through all the tracks that he selected, showcasing, all the vinyl bullshit. And so we're just hanging out, fucking talking some shit.
I just saw that Stella recognized Mike T as a legend of Novato. If you grew up in Novato, you know Mike Tirico. He is the unofficial mayor of Novato. That man is more known throughout Novato, and he is the nicest human I've ever met. Like I can't say enough great things about Mike Tirico. He that dude had the first record collection I ever saw. Like in addition to him making me mixtapes, back in the day, we were skating. He was like, "Oh man, like you guys want to stop at my house?" And like we went there, and he had this like tiny ass fucking room, but the walls were just lined with records, like like a foot and a half, 2 feet out from the walls. All three of the walls were just records sticking out, and then he had like stacks of tape crates on top of stacked tape crates, and then he had like this little like nest of like blankets and a pillow in the corner that he slept on. He didn't even have a fucking bed. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know, like, this is my room. Like, these are my records. And we like listened to records for a little bit, and we left. And then,
so, can you remember the album or artist that he was like, "Yo, this is the shit"? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
There was never one thing. He used to make fun of me a lot because, like, I kind of went about music backwards. Like me and my buddy Marco who like we kind of got into music around the same time. Like, you know, we were probably in like 6th, 7th grade or something like that. And that's when we found punk rock. And Mike would make us these tapes, and Marco's older brother Lucas would make us tapes and all this shit. And Mike used to tease us because he would make like he was way into like anarcho punk and shit like that, and he would make us these mixtapes and be like, oh man, like could we get like faster stuff? And he'd always be like, oh man, like this band's really cool, but like you probably wouldn't like it because it's not fast enough. Like that used to be his thing. Like we started by like getting into like disrupt and like crazy grindcore shit, and then we like circled back to other things. So like I was never really into the Sex Pistols or anything like that. You know, like I was like quickly obsessed with like West Bay Coalition type stuff, like the Plutocracy and like Spaz, and you know all that shit was like that was like what I came up on. You know, it's like so by the time people were like, dude, well, like check out the classics, I was like, man, like I'm already on a rocket ship. I don't want to like jump off this rocket ship and get on like a fucking steam train. You know, like where's the appeal in that? You know, like I'm listening to like fucked up grindcore that's like influenced by like prog rock, doing all these crazy signature changes, and you know, like
right.
Listen to fucking Plutocracy, West Bay Coalition, like those fucking dudes were on another fucking level.
You've mentioned that before. I still haven't delved into it.
Oh man, fucking maniacs. Stinkweed.
Well, it's funny too. Like when we first met, which was, you know, how many years ago it was, but in 5 minutes, I knew this dude was like, all right, I collect records, because you talked about how you stored your records and the importance of that. And you're like, oh, this is a guy who actually considers how he presents and stores his fucking records.
Yeah, I mean, like you can see like part of my shelves behind me. I'm sitting in my record room right now. So yeah, like yeah, I have a record room, which is,
well, you have like the record shop front load, which is,
yeah,
you know, you go as opposed to what I have behind me, which maximizes space, which is the side loading bullshit where it's really hard to fucking see what you have.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I've got that too. I've got that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so behind me, you can't really see it, but it's 7 bins wide, and it's there's 2 levels to it. So there's 14 bins of records behind me, and then over there's like 3 tall, about, I don't know, like 4.5 feet wide stack over there, and then there's like a stack down there, and then there's like 2 stacks.
All the stacks
Here. And then in my living room, I got like another like in my living room I got like one of them IKEA like 3x3 bins, you know, like the whatever the fuck those are called.
That's the party bin when you're having people over.
Yeah. And then also like in my living room next to the stair out there, there's like a couple bins that I have on the floor for like, you know, what's currently being listened to, new things acquired, blah blah blah. And then you can see like CDs, and then like oversized at the top behind me, and then like over there's a couple shelves of CDs, and then in the hallway there's like a couple racks of tapes. It's a whole thing, you know. But I'm, you know, like part of me is like, man, like if you're gonna try to come rob me, like bring a U-Haul and have like a day, because
no, they're not gonna be like, oh, this is a rare fucking album.
It's gonna take you a minute. Like don't get me wrong. There's some weird cutty shit in here that's worth some shit, but there's also
What's your address again? Where you live again?
123 your mom's house.
Your mom's house. Oh,
Fucking burn them.
burn 'em.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. I also have my. I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, do it, man. Let's see the pad, dude.
So on top of that shelf over there, that is my very first turntable. That is a Fisher Price.
Dude, fuck yeah.
That was my first turntable when I was I don't know. I'm gonna say I was in elementary school or some shit like that, like third grade, or I don't fucking know. It still works, but man, the needle on that thing will
Garbage.
just rape the fuck out of a record. Like, don't ever put a record on that thing you care about, because it will just bore it the fuck out.
Dude, so I have a friend who had I don't know where the fuck he got it. It was a Sacramento Library record player. Right? It was
Did you say Sacramental or
Sacramento? No,
okay.
Sacramento Library. It was a Sacramento Library record player that had its own format. And I don't know how he got it, but he got it. And he bought the Suspiria soundtrack, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's an Italian horror film.
Dude, I have a fucking Suspiria book, dog.
So he had the record. And he broke the spring on this record player to make sure that because that record player was only like it was like a 45 essentially.
Yeah.
He broke the spring so it could play the whole album.
It was probably a 78 originally.
Maybe. He modified it so that it could essentially play the entire album. What happened was after the needle moved to a certain point, it dropped, scratched the shit out of it. I was like, why would you ever play that fresh fucking record on that garbage fucking record player?
The needle dropped and scratched it?
Because basically it was like
popped out or something.
He fucked with it. I couldn't tell you the finer details of it. He fucked with it so that it could continually play over 12 inches based off of 12 or 10 or 7, whatever it was originally designed to be. He's like, oh, I'll just make it keep going. And then it kept going, and once it got to that point, it dropped, scratched the entire fucking record. It was like, dude, why would you ever play that shit on that janky ass shit?
Fascinating. I mean, like, so I I started buying records when I want to say I was in like 6th, 7th grade. Probably is when I started buying records. That's when I got into punk rock, and so I mean, fuck, I don't even know how many years ago that would be. Like, if my head wasn't shaved, I'd have a lot of.
Wait, what year?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how old you are when you're in like 6th, 7th grade, but like 6th, 7th grade is when I got into punk rock.
When you're in 6th, 7th grade, you're like 14, 15.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait, 6th, 7th grade? No, 12, 13. I lied.
Yeah, so when I first got into music, it was punk rock is how I started. And it started with like, you're like classic punk rocks, like, it was like Dead Kennedys, like No Effects, like I was listening to like a lot of like poppy punk stuff. And then like it quickly like evolved into like Disrupt and like a lot more like grindcore things. And then I found out about like the West Bay Coalition, all those, power violence, all that shit, whatever. But man, like now I'm getting fucking drunk.
You getting drunk, man? Come on, you.
I forgot where I was going with this rant about getting into music.
Dude, I wasn't even listening. That's the best part.
I feel like I need to trick you into saying some embarrassing shit because I feel like I've been carrying this shit and you're mostly like just sitting
That's the point. You think I do this shit to have you make me do it? No, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk at all. It's all about you, baby.
Oh shit. So Lee Hazelwood's pretty fucking cool, man. I like Lee Hazelwood a lot.
Oh, the dude with fucking Nancy Sinatra.
Yeah, I mean he gives like ugly motherfuckers like myself hope, you know. I'm like, man, if Lee Hazelwood could pull Nancy Sinatra, because let's face it, Nancy Sinatra is a goddamn angel. She is an angel. Dude,
so when I lived in the Mission, well, I worked in the Mission in San Francisco, we called it the Mission Syndrome.
So living and working.
Where you had these things. We had this dude who was like the nerdiest, dorkiest dude who had the hottest girlfriend. I was like, oh, it's because he's a musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Mission, we call it the Mission Syndrome.
Dude, charisma is a motherfucker, man. Like if you got it, you got it, and it's
or confidence, right? Yeah,
confidence and all that is a non-quantifiable thing. It's just some people have it, some don't, and more power to you if you got it. You know,
you could be a good-looking dude and you get no chicks because you got no charisma, or you could be an ugly-ass fucking dude with all the charisma and get all the chicks.
Lee Hazelwood. Yeah, that is a homely looking man. That is a man who is nothing.
Him and Nancy, dude. Him and Nancy.
Lee Hazelwood is nothing to write home about. But Nancy Sinatra. and also the balls you've got to have to be like, oh, you're the chairman of the board. I'm just gonna go ahead and date your daughter. Like, like balls of fucking steel. Good for you, Lee Hazelwood. But also, like,
you're mobbed up. I'm not worried about it because I'm fucking Lee Hazelwood.
Lee Hazelwood's music, the man puts it the fuck down. Like, I think there's some definitely to be said for artistic output. You know,
it's an important thing.
Sure.
All right, Mike, I think we're gonna call it, dude. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've gone like I'm gonna say like 2 hours too long.
No, too long. No, it's as appropriate as it should have been, dude. We were fucking talking shop, talking music. And if you missed any part of this episode, you can listen to it on sconebone.com/vinylview. You want to hear his actual playlist that he created for me? That's on sconebone.com/vinylview. So yeah, no, we did. We came to do exactly what we wanted to do, which is drink fucking whiskey, talk fucking music, dude.
Well, thank you, sir.
No, thank you. I'm so happy that you took the time to make the playlist and to show up and fucking do it.
103.3 KPCA.
That's right, motherfucker. Don't forget. Your local
public access
non-profit radio station.
Let's go to Volpe soon.
Oh, dude, let's get fucking wasted. All right.
Adios, motherfucker.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. Thank you.